Hello, everybody. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of FNC Raw Undisputed. First show, baby. I was supposed to have a partner with me today, but with his work schedule, he will not be here today, so it will only be me today going over these discussions with you. And hopefully educating you guys. You guys watched First Take today or Skip Bayless's Undisputed? No idea what they talked about today, but I can probably surely bet that it was probably some watered down shit that really didn't give a shit about. But I am Matt Crass, your host, and again, this is FNC Raw Undisputed, coming to you by Travago.com. Go there, book some hotels. You always have two prices with them. And also coming to you from Mountain Dew. Stream Sports, baby, drink a dew. I'm drinking a dew right now. But let's jump right into it. Today, the first topic I want to talk about today is, I'm sure everybody heard, I mean, it was hell of fuck. Talk of the town, I guess, yesterday. Aaron Rodgers going down with I mean, not a brutal hit, but I mean, hit enough. I mean, broke his collarbone. But yeah, how much in trouble are the Packers right now without Aaron Rodgers? He could possibly miss the whole year. If not, I mean, coming back probably maybe around I say between week 10 and 14, but I mean, you don't want to rush it, especially if you're not going to be really in the playoff hunt. But yeah, Rodgers left the game yesterday in the first quarter after taking a hit from linebacker Anthony Barr. Definitely was probably brutal to all the Packer fans. Probably a couple of the cheeseheads cried. But they diagnosed it with a broken right collarbone on his throwing arm. That type of injury, I mean, it might hinder him going down the road, like as in next season and whatnot. Brett Hundley came in to replace him yesterday. People who don't know Brett Hundley, he was drafted back in 2015, fifth round, number 147th overall. He was quarterback from the UCLA Bruins. He wasn't too bad of a quarterback, I guess, in UCLA. He is the school record holder in total offense with 11,713 yards total, 9,966 of them throwing, and 1,747 running. So, I mean, it's not like he's a horrible quarterback. I mean, he has been in the system for a couple years, so you would think that he'd be somewhat acclimated to their system. I don't want to go as far as saying the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing where Aaron sat behind Brett for a while, but hey, now it's kind of vice versa, you know what I mean? Aaron sat behind Brett, now Brett sat behind Aaron, so let's see how that works out. Whenever he entered the game, I mean, he went 17 for 33, 157 yards, one touchdown, three interceptions. Not anything blowing your skirt up or whatnot. I mean, they did end up losing that game. I mean, his career stats as of now, he only played one game last year, figuring junk time. He's now 20 for 43 for 174 yards, one touchdown and four interceptions. Again, not great at all. But again, that was his first game. So, I mean, let's see how they do moving forward. There's definitely no replacing Aaron Rodgers. Like, you just can't with a player of that caliber. Like, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's just a beast. I mean, what else can you say about him? I mean, they're going to have to be successful. They're going to have to put Hundley in good position to win some ball games by also staying aggressive on your offense. I mean, you don't want – I mean, honestly, you can't run the ball to begin with. Now, I mean, you had a couple games there where Their running back looked like he was from another world, but yeah, by no means is that going to be a constant factor. So, I mean, they definitely cannot run the ball. And on top of that, they did get three of their offensive linemen back yesterday just to lose them all again yesterday. And, I mean, that's been kind of the talk in Green Bay. I mean, their linemen have not played together at all this year in a full game. Uh, like I said, all three of them returned to the starting lineup just to be out. Balaga, he left due to a concussion. Taylor left for an ankle injury. And Baccaria, he left from a hamstring. So, I mean, that makeshift line in itself, I mean, even when they were together, I mean, piece by piece somewhat, Aaron got hit a bunch of times. And again, you can see it yesterday with Anthony Barr breaking his collarbone. I mean, he was trying to escape pressure, but yeah, got hit, broke his collarbone. Now, I mean, they do have a couple options. They could stick with Hundley. I mean, he is probably the most knowledgeable one of that scheme and all that right now, being played for the team since 2015. I mean, they can go out, check free agency out. I mean, when I checked out free agency, the notable names that I seen was RG3, Christian Ponder, Luke McCown, and Colin Kaepernick. I mean, hey, Colin Kaepernick today, he filed a grievance to try to prove collusion, why teams want to pick him up, but that's an uphill battle. I really don't see him having any luck with that. If anything, if I was Kaepernick, I would have just fucking came out and said plainly, hey, man, I want to play football. I'm ready to play football. I've been working out daily. Give me a shot. Just wait for a team to call. Instead of pulling some punk shit and fucking filing a grievance against the NFL. I mean, don't piss off an angry dog as it is. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of things Roger Goodell does because I think he is abusing his power, definitely. And it is the Players Association's fault because they did sign that Article 43 or whatnot that basically kind of gives Roger Goodell judge, jury, and fucking executioner. I mean, that was just stupid on their part. Like, I don't know why they did that, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, my gut feeling is I say the Packers are done. I do not see them. They have an eight-year consecutive stretch of going to the playoffs. I'd say that's done this year. Even if Aaron Rodgers would happen to come back, like around week 11 to 13, if the Packers are, I don't even want to, if they're even hunting just for a wild card, I would not push the envelope on trying to get Aaron Rodgers back in there. Because, I mean, if you force it, then he gets hurt again and breaks that collarbone again because, hey, we all seen it happen with Tony Romo. I mean, he healed up, took a hit, bang, broke it again. So, I mean, that's something you don't want to rush. And, I mean, yeah, it was a good season this year, but you know what? Maybe you can just live to fight another day next year. I mean, their whole entire line is injured. I mean, there's so many injuries across that board in Green Bay that maybe with Aaron going down, they say, hey, man, let's get some of these rookies and some of these younger players some playing time. So, I mean, that's the best way to learn. I mean, you don't want to say you want to tank your season, but, I mean, if Aaron's gone, I mean, if you lose a quarterback like that, out of that caliber, you probably statistically are not going to go very far. I mean, what, even if you make the playoffs, I seriously doubt we're going to hear at the end of the year, Brett Hundley leads the Packers to a Super Bowl victory. Yeah, we're not going to hear those words. So, yeah, if I was the Packers, I would just have Aaron Rodgers do his rehab, just heal up, and then let all the other players heal. I mean, they have a slew of injuries. And right now, this team just is not healthy. And maybe with this happening to Aaron Rodgers, they have a chance to get healthy and to get some experience to their first and second year players. So going into next year, hopefully that they're world beaters with their young players learning the playbook. And again, the only way you're going to learn is with physical NFL snaps. All right. Again, this is FNC Raw Undisputed, coming to you from Travago and Mountain Dew. Let's pay some bills here. Same hotel, same experience, but two prices. Search over 500,000 hotels. Compare them online at over 100 websites. Go for the best price. That's what Travago will give you. Travago.com. And Mountain Dew. Whether you just got done riding your dirt bike through mud or just landed on your feet after jumping out of a perfectly safe airplane, why would you do that? There's only one drink that'll quench your thirst. For the most extreme person, grab yourself a refreshing, thirst-quenching Mountain Dew. Do the do. Enjoy the extreme. Okay, the next topic I want to hit into is Big Ben. Do you think Big Ben Roethlisberger is done in Pittsburgh? I mean, I'm sure we all heard his interview that he did a couple days ago saying that maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. Now, mind you, that was after a 5-interception day, and of course, you throw 5 interceptions in the NFL, I don't care who you are, you're going to feel pretty low about yourself. Now, watching the game film over the last 16 games, the only thing I've noticed diminishing on Big Ben is his foot speed and some of his accuracy. Now, I'm not saying by no means is Big Ben inaccurate, because I mean, he is still one hell of an accurate thrower. But you can see on certain throws and certain parts of the field, his accuracy not as what it was a few years ago. And you can definitely tell that his foot speed has also diminished a little bit. But I figure, again, with all the injuries this man has had and how many hits he's taken, I mean, he is a bruiser. He basically welcomes hits, I mean, whenever he was younger. I mean, just like you seen Fournette yesterday's game, calling for the freaking hits, baby. He's like, come on and give it to me. That's basically how Big Ben was. I mean, if you talk to any player that's played him, he is a quarterback that is very hard to get down. So, yeah, again, watching tape, I mean, that's the only thing that I've seen that you can give a knock on him. Again, he's 37. He's been in the league for 14 years. His foot speed and accuracy are definitely not going to be what they were whenever he came out from Miami of Ohio. Again, yes, he's entering his 14th season. The injuries that Big Ben has accrued over the last few years since 2015 is insane. Just to name some, sprained MCL, a sprained foot. He dealt with a few concussions. His AC joint sprain with torn ligaments in his throwing shoulder and a torn meniscus. I mean, that's some serious injuries to only occur over the last 2 years. So, I mean, those things in itself have built up to where he's definitely not healthy. And honestly, I don't think Big Ben comes into any of the season in the last few years as completely 100% healthy. And you can tell that just by watching him play. I mean, you can tell that he's definitely not comfortable right now. And yeah, I mean, his body's getting broke down. I mean, he has taken some big hits since coming into the NFL. But I mean, he is a big boy. I've seen him lay some wood just as he gets some wood. I mean, he's a big hitter. I mean, he's a big boy. I mean, Ray Lewis probably one of the best linebackers ever in NFL history. Even talking to him, whenever you hear him on shows, whenever they're referencing Big Ben, I mean, Ray Lewis will even tell you he is one quarterback that it's so hard to get him down. I mean, all these injuries, this is why, I mean, I can safely say, I believe, now, I mean, he's under contract until 2019. And then after that, I mean, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. I honestly don't see him playing through the remainder of his contract. Next year, he's going to be owed $18.2 million. And the last season on his contract in 2019, the team's going to be on the hook for $23.2 million to him. Now, I definitely don't see him retiring at the end of this year. Only that being said, because there are a plethora of good quarterbacks coming out in this year's draft. So I can see the Steelers definitely trying to make a run at one of these cornerbacks early. I'd say within the first 1 or 2 rounds. Anything over round 2 selecting a quarterback, you're really going to probably miss. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I think from the Cardinals, Louisville, I'm believing he should probably go somewhere around the 3rd or 4th round. And if you're banking on him to be your franchise quarterback, you're sadly mistaken. Lamar Jackson will definitely not be a franchise quarterback, and I'll say that right now, and I feel very comfortable saying that right now. But, yeah, I can definitely see Pittsburgh trying to make a run at one of these quarterbacks early in the first 2 rounds next year. Now, that being said, that's why I believe Big Ben will at least play 1 more year. I mean, he's due $18.2 million. He's not going to leave that on the table. And that'll give him a chance to groom the young quarterback coming in next year. And then him going off the books and retiring in 2019 will save the Steelers $23.2 million. And with that money, you can turn around and re-sign some of these players that their contracts are coming up, or go out in free agency and pick up a few players. But yeah, I definitely don't see Big Ben finishing out this contract right now. I mean, if anything, he's probably going to have to restructure it next year. Because I don't think the Steelers are going to want to be paying $18.2 million to Big Ben next year. Especially depending on how this season goes. I mean, he's already won 2 Super Bowls, so it's not like not winning a Super Bowl is holding him back or holding him in the NFL. I mean, he already has hardware, 2 of them. So, I mean, he can easily retire at the end of this year or even the following year and still have 2 Super Bowl rings with a chance to possibly get one this year or next year if he stays. His contract alone is a big problem for Pittsburgh. I mean, again, $18.2 million and $23.2 million right there in itself is a little over $41 million that he's still guaranteed to get. And I don't see the Steelers paying him that much money. I definitely see them trying to restructure this year, and I don't foresee him playing in 2019. Yeah, I mean, I definitely. Also, that being said, I don't see Le'Veon Bell being with his team any longer than 3 years. I mean, Martavius Bryant already has came out this week and said that he's not happy and he's trying to request a trade. So right off the bat, right there, I mean, you have Antonio locked down for a few more years, and then Bryant, your number two, already wanting out. I mean, you already lost one of your wide receivers that played last year. You lost him this year, which means basically kind of the only person you have in place if Bryant loses is Schuster, the guy that they got in this draft in the second round. Now, he's a good receiver. I I don't see him being as prolific as Bryant. Now, if anything, what they should have done instead of picking up Juju Smith, Juju Schuster, whatever his name is, and again, that's how good a receiver he is. I forget his name, but they should have picked up Cooper Kupp. I mean, the Rams definitely got one hell of a wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. Now, mind you, he's not an outside receiver by no means. I mean, he's not going to be your number one or number two receiver. I mean, Kupp is a slot receiver. I mean, he's like a Wes Welker, Cole Beasley. I mean, Kupp is definitely a slot receiver. And, yeah, the Rams definitely kind of stole him because he definitely dropped in that draft. I mean, I could have very easily seen him go in the second round, especially some of the talent that I've seen that went in the second round. Like, they're not showing up at all. I mean, Cooper Kupp did drop a touchdown the other night. But again, watching him in college and watching him in the OTAs this year in training camp over in Los Angeles and in the combine, this guy, he did not drop balls. But I mean, again, that's way off topic. I mean, he's not going to be playing for the Steelers. He's a Ram, at least for the next 3 years. But yeah, I think Big Ben is seeing the Steelers falling apart right before his eyes. I mean, like I said, Bryant's unhappy. He's looking for a trade. Le'Veon Bell, with him holding out this year, trying to get a contract extension. The Steelers don't fuck around. I mean, if they're gonna pay you, they're gonna pay you, and the hold them hostage is basically pointless. And he may have burned a bridge with the Rooney's doing that. So I mean, that's what I mean. I don't see Le'Veon really being with this team any longer than 3 years. Even if they do sign a contract with him for 4 years, I'm sure, like most teams, it'll probably only kind of be worded as about a 2-year contract where they can get out of it after the second year, which that's how most contracts are. I mean, they'll upload you in the front with most of your guarantees. And so that back half, if you don't perform to the level they expect, it's very easy for them to get out of the contract in year 3 usually. But yeah, I definitely see Big Ben seeing that this team is falling apart, and I think he does want to get out before it implodes. And again, I felt that Tomlin has been on the hot seat for a few years now. I mean, I know they won their division last year, and they did. I mean, they had a nice playoff run, but regardless, they didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't make it to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I don't see Big Ben sticking around too much longer. I mean, it would not surprise me a bit, like I said, that the Steelers definitely make a move in the first 2 rounds of this upcoming draft to get a quarterback. Because, I mean, like I said, the draft class this year for the quarterbacks coming out, it's way better than last year. I mean, this is probably the best draft class in a couple of years. And that being said, I mean, Sam Darnold, he might not even come out this year, depending on who's at the top. I mean, if I was him, I'd be eyeing up the 49ers. Now, I mean, I know the 49ers are eyeing up Kirk Cousins, depending on what happens with him in Washington. But yeah, I definitely see Sam Darnold probably eyeing San Francisco. Only because he is a California kid and he does play for USC. Uh, he's a big, strong quarterback with a very big arm. Uh, but yeah, I can foresee that if Cleveland and the Jets, they're at the top of that order, I can almost kind of see that Deshaun Watson, I mean, not Deshaun Watson, which again, there's a lot of teams that passed up on him, which we'll talk about later, that could have had, like Cleveland could have had him, or even Pittsburgh, instead of, I mean, they could have made a push to get Deshaun. But yeah, if anything, yeah, the Steelers, I would say they're definitely probably going to make a push to get a quarterback in the first couple rounds this year in the draft. Uh, which is why I don't see him retiring at the end of this year. Because, I mean, he will need to groom the next quarterback. And I believe Big Ben is one of those quarterbacks that will definitely be in your ear, helping you out as much as possible. I mean, he really is a team player. But yeah, Big Ben and the Steelers, I don't see him going any further than the 2018 season. Sorry, Steeler fans, but I mean, you had a hell of a run with him, 15 years in the making if he retires at the end of next year. The next topic I want to discuss, Sam Bradford. I mean, is his career done? I mean, from what I have read and from what I have heard, this may be a career-ending injury for him. I mean, it was only it was a non-contact bone bruise that he suffered in week 1. He was out for a few games. Did try to come back against the Bears. Didn't make it very far. I mean, he only went 5 for 11 for 36 yards. And then you can see him just crumple right to the ground. I mean, that knee is in some bad shape. I mean, figure that that's the same knee that he has gotten reconstructed 2 times so far. I mean, he missed the entire 2014 season by blowing out his ACL. So, yeah, and I did notice Jake Laser earlier did tweet about possibly this being a career-ending injury. I mean, Mike Zimmer did come out at the end of that Bears game and did say that the knee injury isn't any worse than what it was initially whenever it occurred. I mean, again, it was a non-contact deep bone bruise in his left knee, same knee that he's had reconstructed twice. I mean, he's been going to New York to get these treatments. It's called a Regenikine treatment. No, I really don't know how to pronounce it was, but he's been getting those treatments in hopes of getting the inflammation out of the knee. I mean, what they do in this treatment, they draw Sam's blood and they spin it down, and then they physically re-inject the spun down blood into the knee over a 5 or 6 day period, basically in hopes of getting that blood out, and as you spin it down and then pumping the fresh blood in, hopefully that takes care of the inflammation. I mean, you could see in that Bears game, whenever he would step into the throw, he was having a very hard time. And you can tell that he didn't feel very comfortable throwing at all. And again, in a result of that, you could see that. I mean, he finally just his knee basically just kind of gave out on him. He went right to the ground, and that was it for him that day. I mean, it's definitely painful. I mean, from what the doctor has said, this being the same knee that he's had reconstructed a couple years ago, I mean, there's a lot of wear and tear on that knee. A lot of cartilage issues that can't be cleaned up until he's definitely done with football. I mean, there's no sense of going in there cleaning up all these issues just for him to continue to play football. Because again, once you start going into the knee, and I mean, with as much wear and tear as he has on that knee, I mean, you're kind of only begging. You're only one hit away again. Especially with all them issues. I mean, he deals with the swelling. It swells up almost every other day from what I've heard and what I've read. I mean, so he deals with that on a daily basis. And yeah, the only way to get that knee right is to be done playing football, and then once you're done playing football, you can go get those things cleaned up a little bit. And with how much you're on your knee and how strenuous it is going through the practices, getting hit in live games, yeah, you almost have to, especially at his age, you hang up the cleats and yeah, you go get your knee scoped out, get it cleaned out, and all that. But yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, he contemplated retirement in 2014, anyways. Right after he blew his ACL out for the second time, I mean, he contemplated retiring then. I would say that it depends on the severity of this bone bruise and the prolonged effects that come with all that. I mean, if he's waking up every week and these treatments are getting the inflammation out like they expected, then yes, I can see him definitely probably hanging his cleats up. I mean, he made a good bit of money in his career. I mean, he wasn't a bad quarterback. Definitely people could say he was injury prone. For he came out of college with the shoulder problem. I mean, he had a hurt shoulder coming into his rookie season, and I mean, it's been injuries from the gate, basically. I mean, he's only played 16 games a few times in his career. And again, the doctor said that there's so much wear and tear that comes with that knee, and there's definitely some heavy cartilage issues. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that occur whenever you play football. I mean, now a good thing for the Vikings is Teddy Bridgewater is eligible to come off of PUP this week. PUP is physically it's right on the tip of my tongue. Physically unable to perform or whatnot. So I mean, yeah, they can get him off PUP, and they will have 21 days to determine what to do with him whenever they do take him off the PUP. They can either put him on the active roster or they can put him under season-ending injury reserve after they take him off that. I mean, depending on how Case Keenum does, you might want to keep Bridgewater out until next year and then have him totally rehab all year. And I mean, once you get him off the PUP, I mean, he can physically start training with the team again. I mean, he doesn't have to stay away. So he can be in the facilities and all that, going through all his normal everyday routine. Which, I mean, Bridgewater himself, I mean, he's still a young quarterback. So, I mean, for the Vikings that kind of look towards another quarterback in the future in this draft. I don't see it. I mean, they still are trying to see what they have in Teddy. And I mean, he was doing good before this injury that happened last year that took him out of all last year and basically half of this year so far. But again, like he is eligible this week to come off the pup, and maybe with Sam Bradford going down, I mean, you got Bradford for Teddy Bridgewater, and now that Bradford is out with the knee, you're getting Bridgewater back. So I mean, what you spent for Bradford, I would say, I mean, may not have been worth it, but uh, he lasted about just as long as you would expect. And you don't want to say perfect timing for an injury because it's never great to have an injury, but I mean, in hindsight, I mean, if you were going to say, hey, we're going to get Sam Bradford because Teddy Bridgewater went down. Whenever Teddy Bridgewater comes back, Sam Bradford is going to be injured, and we have no controversy there. Because, I mean, there may have been some controversy because Bradford's looked good over the last season and a half. I mean, he definitely has. I mean, the first game against the Saints, he looked really good. And it was kind of a continuance from last year. I mean, again, they didn't win the Super Bowl or nothing like that, but you know what? The Vikings did look good last year, and Sam Bradford did have a pretty good season last year. But yeah, I mean, we'll see in the next couple weeks what they decide to do with Bridgewater. Is he going to be the starting quarterback again? And I mean, they have 3 weeks to acclimate him in there to get him back in football shape. And they have Case Keenum. I mean, that can come in. I mean, he knows the system a little bit, so it's not like they're a fish out of the water. I mean, they do have a formidable quarterback that can possibly win some games. And again, the quarterbacks that are out there that are notable, like I said earlier, for the Aaron Rodgers thing, I mean, you got RG3, Christian Ponder, Colin Kaepernick, and Luke McCown, Josh McCown's brother. Out of them 4 names, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, it really kind of is. There's a lot of drama that comes with Kaepernick, especially since he's a grievance against the NFL for collusion. I don't know if I would physically take a chance on Kaepernick. I mean, he has he's not a bad quarterback. I mean, hey, he led the 49ers whenever Harbaugh was coaching. I mean, they were a couple plays away from getting to the Super Bowl. I mean, so it's not like he's a complete scrub by no means. And even last year, he didn't have a bad year. Even though San Francisco as a whole had a bad season last year, but I mean, it was by no means, it wasn't Kaepernick's fault. I mean, he played well. He definitely played well enough last year that I believe if he would have stayed with the team, would have been the starter over Brian Hoyer. But what I'm thinking happened is the 49ers expected Kirk Cousins to get traded or just outright cut. So yeah, I definitely my gut feeling is yes. I believe Sam Bradford will be done this year. I don't see him playing any more football in the NFL. I do think Bradford is done. All right. I mean, next topics. I call this the panic meter for some NFL teams. 5 being panic your ass off. 1 being you're good. Just continue doing what you're doing. I got 3 teams that are topping the panic meter for hitting on the 5. And that first team, I'm sure you could probably already guess, would be the Cleveland Browns. I don't even know what to say about the Browns. I really don't. They were 1-15 last year, and they are 0-6 this year. Hugh Jackson was specifically brought in to this team because of what he could do with quarterbacks and that he was a good play caller. Now, that being said, he's 1-21 over the last 2 seasons, and that is definitely that's ingredients to get shit canned real goddamn quick. So yeah, I believe Hugh Jackson's definitely on the hot seat. He may even get fired before the season's up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. And Kaiser was supposed to be his boy. I mean, he did draft Kaiser, and he already bailed on him, putting Hogan in, Kevin Hogan. I mean, Kevin Hogan, you picked him up from the Chiefs last year after the Chiefs released him, and you did play Kevin Hogan last year. So for you to insert Kaiser into the starting role just to take him back out for a quarterback that you've seen last year play, and if you weren't sold on him last year, why would you be sold on him right now? And especially knowing that your job kind of goes with Kaiser. I mean, you guys, the Browns passed up on all kind of quarterback. I mean, they passed up on Pat Mahomes. I mean, which the Chiefs got. They passed up on Sean Watson. I mean, you see what Deshaun's doing right now in Houston. They definitely could have had Deshaun. I mean, and you wouldn't even have gave anything up because you still would have had Garrett because you had a later draft pick. I think it was 11. So, I mean, you still had an opportunity to get Garrett and possibly even Watson. So, I mean, again, their quarterback woes just continues. I mean, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. I mean, they do select a quarterback. He ends up being shit anyways. I think the best quarterback that the Browns have had in recent times was Bernie Kosar and shit. That was back in the middle 80s. But yeah, he's definitely attached to Kaiser. I mean, that was his guy, and he's already benching him. And if he's trying to bench him to possibly see what he's going to do for next year, I don't think Hugh Jackson's going to be around next year. And I would definitely hope that they're not tanking the season to get one of the quarterbacks, because I will tell you right from the gate, and from also what I've heard across the league and from people, Sam Darnold will not. I mean, he'll go back and play his senior year if he's not comfortable with the team that's top. I mean, I seriously doubt Sam wants to come out and play for the Cleveland Browns. And that's the one thing the East has a problem with. The AFC North and all that. I mean, you're a cold weather division. I mean, figure you have Cleveland, Cincy. You have Maryland for the Ravens, and you have Pittsburgh. I mean, they're all cold. And quarterbacks usually that come from hot states or like in the West, I mean, they typically don't do well in cold weather. I mean, not one of them teams are a dome team. So, I mean, Sam Darnold, I just don't see him coming out. I see him returning to school if it is, say, the Jets or Cleveland being there. I mean, like I said earlier, I think his fit that he wants would typically be the 49ers, and I can, even with how strong the 49ers have played, I mean, they're still 0-6. I mean, there's still a good chance that the California kid can come out of college and go to the 49ers, which I'm thinking that John Lynch, in the back of his head, he's already hoping that scenario goes through. I mean, that would be the perfect place for Sam Darnold to go, and he is one hell of a quarterback. And even if you lose Darnold, I mean, Josh Rosen, I mean, he's just as good as a quarterback. I mean, so it's 1A, 1B. And again, with the debacle of Kaiser and benching him, I just don't see Hugh Jackson being with the team next year. And again, like I said, I can see him being probably terminated by the end of this year. It probably wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, with Cleveland, I mean, Cleveland fans should be used to this. They've been dealing with this shit for I mean, at least 15 to 20 years. I mean, I can't think. And again, I think Bernie Kosar was the last quarterback they heard. Well, they had. I mean, and if the younger people don't know who Bernie Kosar is, it really doesn't matter because I mean, it's the Browns. I mean, who really cares about the Browns? The Browns have not been good in forever, like they haven't been. Now, with how they drafted this year, I really did think that I really thought that they won the draft. I mean, with the selections they did. Now, that being said, they drafted Jabril Peppers. They're definitely playing him out of position, like they don't know what they're doing. I mean, now if they really wanted a safety like that, they could. I mean, there were safeties that they could have got Hooker from, and he went to the Colts, and he already has 3 interceptions. I mean, Malik Hooker definitely probably was the best safety in that class, and they could have snatched him up, but they got Jabril Peppers. And for Peppers to be a good safety, I mean, he plays down in the box. I mean, you can't play him off coverage. I mean, that's not his strong suit. Now, I mean, with Myles Garrett, yeah, I mean, he did have a 2-sack game whenever he came back from his injury. But again, I mean, it's Cleveland. I mean, they're 0-6. I kind of don't see Cleveland, even if I mean, they're not going to go 0-16. I guarantee that. I mean, at the best, I could see them going 13-3. I mean, they do play tough. I mean, they are an up-and-coming team. I believe they're just really a quarterback away from kind of putting it together. Now, when I say putting it together in an upcoming team, I don't mean a playoff contender or even contending for a Super Bowl. I mean, when I say up-and-coming team, I mean not being a dead-in-the-water team like they have been over these last few years. I mean, I can see them being like a 7-win team, an 8-win team, like going 8-8. And I mean, that's one hell of a jump for the Browns. I mean, that's a jump in the right direction. Fuck, even 6-10 would be considered a great season in Cleveland land. I mean, the Browns just aren't having any help. I mean, they have 7 players on IR. Corey Coleman, he's on IR right now. He had surgery on his right hand to fix a fractured metacarpal. And that was a big loss. I mean, he was their speedster, wide receiver. Their offensive tackle, Roderick Johnson, he's on IR right now with a sprained MCL and meniscus injury. Then you got defensive back Howard Wilson. He's out with a fractured kneecap. That possibly could be season ending. I don't know if he's going to return for week 13. I mean, if he's not back by week 13, then yeah, I mean, he's done for the season. But I mean, the earliest they can pull him out will be week 13, I believe. And that goes the same with Dominic Alexander, their linebacker. He's out right now with a knee injury. That also could be season-ending. We might see him around week 13. Darius Jackson, the running back, he's on IR with a knee injury. It's a lot of knee injuries. A lot of knee injuries for this team. And Darius Jackson, that's one fuck up last year where I know Dallas screwed up at. Especially, they didn't think any team was going to pick him up from waivers whenever they released him just to put Randy Gregory on the active roster. And then next thing you know, Randy Gregory goes the fuck out for the rest of the season. So, and we had very high hopes for Darius Jackson. He was definitely a good running back coming out of college, and we seen some high hopes in him. And I was pretty pissed that he went to Cleveland, that he got snatched up. I mean, we could have made room with another player. But yeah, we definitely we bit ourselves in the ass on that one. And the front office, I mean, they do still to this day. They talk about losing Darius Jackson. You got the other linebacker, Tank Corder. I mean, he's out with a torn ACL. He's out the whole season. You got your guard, Chris Barkley. He's out with a ruptured left Achilles. Like I said, they got send players on IR. I mean, injuries like how the injuries tore up the Green Bay. Injuries are doing the same thing to the Browns. No, I mean, that's night and day, Browns and Packers. I mean, you can't say that these players being on IR could have really done anything for the Browns to have them have a push, but still, it helps. Kenny Britt, he's not on our IR, but for the last 2 weeks, he has been sitting. He has knee and groin issues. So, yeah, he hasn't played in 3 weeks. And again, Kenny Britt, he might have had one good season, and that wasn't even a beautiful season by no means. It was more a mediocre season than anything. I mean, Kenny Britt, he just isn't what people thought he was going to be, and that's a shame because he can't play and he is fast. But yeah, he definitely has failed expectations across the league. I mean, I believe this is his fourth. I think it's his fourth team that he played for. And their other linebacker, James Burgess, he's out. He's been out the last game with a knee injury. Again, those knee injuries are just tallying up on these Browns. But yeah, they are definitely the top of my panic meter. They're 5. They're yelling panic, baby. There's fire. I think they benched Kizer knowing that which they didn't give him time anyways, and I did see Kizer doing a couple good things. I really hope they give the guy a chance and they just don't tank the season and draft another quarterback next year and have those two battled out. Because I mean, that's kind of pointless. I mean, you selected Kizer saying that he was going to be the quarterback of the future for the Browns. Take him out already. And he hasn't. It's not like they've been losing the games because of him. I mean, Cleveland, in some of their games here in the last 6 games, I mean, they've been competitive in about half of them. I mean, it's not like they've been getting blown out of the water. I mean, they're a few plays away from making it an interesting contest. I mean, like I said, I mean, they're an up and coming team. I mean, do I think they're an up and coming playoff team? No, not at all. But if they get a quarterback, quite possibly. Only because Big Ben and Joe Flacco, they are definitely on the back 9 of their career. I mean, I don't see either one of them quarterbacks playing any longer than the 2018 season. And then you have Andy Dalton. I mean, he's going to be around probably for about another 6, 7 years, possibly, Dalton. But again, Big Ben and Flacco leaving their teams respectively, that's going to put them in a situation, I don't want to say rebuilding, but that's going to give a Cincinnati or a Cleveland a chance to do something in that division, possibly. Because, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh really isn't built right now to be able to bring in a quarterback and win immediately. Like, their defense isn't what it was whenever Jerome Bettis played. After Dick LeBeau left, I mean, which I still can't fathom why the Steelers let Dick LeBeau go. I mean, he was the driving force of that defense, and the defense did play very well under Dick LeBeau. I mean, fuck, Dick LeBeau is a Hall of Fame coordinator. I mean, they got rid of him in Tennessee, and I mean, Tennessee isn't the greatest defense, but Tennessee's defense is a lot better now with Dick LeBeau than what it was whenever they didn't have him a few years ago. But yeah, my second team on the panic meter, which I give them a panic 5, is obviously the Green Bay Packers. Anytime you lose a caliber player like Aaron Rodgers, you're going to be in panic mode. Because Aaron Rodgers was the driving force behind Green Bay. I mean, it was no one else but Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you can look at a team and pluck one player, and that player causes your whole team to fucking trickle down like Jenga. Like, you pull out one fucking piece, the whole goddamn thing collapses. That's what Aaron Rodgers is to the Green Bay Packers. You pull that piece out, you're done. And that being said, I mean, they are riddled with injuries. I mean, like I said at the top half of the show, I mean, they got 3 of their offensive linemen back just to be out of the game that same game they came back. So, I mean, yeah, the Green Bay Packers are definitely in panic mode. I mean, like I said, whenever you lose a player like Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's just over. And on top of that, they can't rush the ball. Like, I mean, yeah, that rookie Aaron Jones or whatnot, he had a game against Dallas, but again, that doesn't mean they can run the ball. And especially with their offensive line in shambles. I mean, at a time a couple games ago, they physically were playing 5 guards on that line. I mean, playing 5 fucking offensive guards throughout your whole line. I mean, that's not a recipe for fucking winning at all. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers was the patchwork that did it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of those kind of quarterbacks that you can probably fucking put back there on the offensive line 5 fucking defensive backs, and Aaron Rodgers would find a way to win a majority of his games just because he's a flat-out beast. Like I said earlier, their streak of 8 consecutive playoff appearances, it's done. I can safely sit here and say the Packers will not make the playoffs this year. And it is all because Aaron Rodgers is gone. And again, I mean, that type of injury, I mean, me being a Cowboy fan, I know all about fucking shoulder shit. I mean, Romo went through it. You're out for anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. Now, that being said, with the line the way it is, and like I said at the top half of the hour, I mean, if I'm the Packers, I say that this is a lost season with how many injuries you have. I would say get healthy and look for next year. I mean, now no one in the front office is going to openly admit, hey, man, we're playing for next year. But again, I mean, you can get some of these rookies and some of these young players some time. I mean, pull up some practice squad players, insert them into the lineup. I mean, see what you have in them. I mean, the only way that you get quality reps in the NFL is physically playing the games. I mean, being on the practice squad, you're not getting quality reps. I mean, you just aren't. And with Aaron Rodgers being out, it's game over for the Packers. Uh, my next team on the panic meter, which they are gauging to 5, I would say would be the 0-6 49ers. Now, uh, with the 49ers, they are a very interesting 0-6 team because 5 out of the last 5 games, they only lost by three or fewer points. I mean, so they've literally been in practically almost every game. So I mean, them being 0-6, I guarantee John Lynch and the front office is looking at their team, knowing that they're competitive. I mean, it's just putting it together. And right now, Brian Hoyer is not the answer. I mean, so yeah, they are a quarterback, I believe, away from becoming a pretty good team. And I don't say that as a Cleveland up and coming. With a good quarterback, I do believe that the 49ers would automatically be considered at least fighting for a wild card. I mean, their defense is still pretty good. Uh, their offense, Carlos Hyde, he's a beast. But the emergence of Kittle, I mean, the tight end, he's not looking bad. Brian Hoyer's he's made him into a good little safety blanket. So I mean, yeah, the 49 now that again at the beginning of the season. I mean, Lynch. Whenever they hired Lynch, I mean, they gave him some leeway. I mean, he knows that he has some time under his belt before you can even utter the words hot seat. I mean, that coaching staff has some time. And with what their team looks like now, it doesn't look bad. So them going forward, like these next 2 years in the drafts and all that, I mean, I can see the 49ers being a pretty good team here in the next 3 years. I mean, and if they get a good quarterback next year, they could start possibly turning it around as quick as next year. Because I really don't see if they would happen to land Sam Darnold. I don't see Sam Darnold having to wait a couple years to get his feet underneath him. I think that he's going to jump right from the gate. I mean, because their O-line really isn't too bad. And again, I do see the 49ers do have cap. I mean, and they can very easily go out and acquire some players during free agency next year. I do know the tackle and the guard class in this upcoming draft isn't that great. So teams like teams like the Giants that are they did win yesterday. So I mean, they are 1-5. So yeah, if the Giant, I believe the Giants are going to be in the top 4 considerations for next year's draft. They'll have one of the top 4 picks. But if they're physically looking to try to solidify that line, next year's class in tackles and guards aren't great. So, I mean, even if they are at the top, I mean, I wouldn't even take a guard or a tackle outside of the 15th pick. I mean, if I were the Giants and you're physically looking at tackles and guards, I would definitely trade back. Try to acquire some more picks and try to build your team that way. I mean, that and again with them, I mean, they're riddled with injuries. I mean, their whole wide receiver class is gone. I mean, Odell Beckham's out for the year. Sterling Shepard, I mean, he'll be back. But, I mean, yeah, they could definitely use some wide receivers. Now, I mean, Darkwa, I mean, he had his moments yesterday in that game. Again, they need a line. I mean, because they cannot rush the ball. I mean, they're just like the Packers. They can't rush the ball. I mean, them not rushing the ball is putting Eli in danger every time. I mean, on top of he's an interception machine. But yeah, back to the 49ers. I mean, they are probably in this in the top 3 panic modes that I gave a 5. They are probably the one team that is in panic 5 mode that is not too worried. I mean, especially with the way their team is playing. So, I mean, I really wouldn't panic too much, but again, they are 0-6. The next team, I gave them a 4 in panic mode, and that would be the Bears. Now, they did bench Glennon, and they did put Mitchell Trubisky in. So they are 2-4 right now, and yeah, it does look like it's the Trubisky era now. Which he has some flashes. I mean, it shows that he can play some big boy football in this league. But again, it was one game. I mean, one game. Now, that being said, John Fox. John Fox has lost 27 out of the last 38 games he's coached here for the Bears. He's definitely on the hot seat. He's definitely on his way out. And I think the trend that we're seeing this year with the young quarterbacks getting an offensive bind, that's another big reason why I think John Fox is out this year. Like, I mean, if he doesn't get fired, if he doesn't get fired this year, he's gone next year. And I do see the Bears bringing in offensive-minded head coach to help Mitchell Trubisky out. 'Cause, I mean, they went and got him. So they definitely are not going to be benching him or having him. I mean, that's their quarterback of the future. They drafted him to be the franchise quarterback. And again, you need an offensive-minded coach, I believe, to put him in great position to succeed. And I mean, the Bears, I mean, they don't have a bad team. I mean, they also have injuries. I mean, every team in the NFL has injuries. But I mean, Trubisky, yeah. I mean, I definitely see that he can be a decent quarterback. And all they need to do, I mean, they need to get some wide receivers. And they have a hell of a runner, Jordan Howard. So I think their running game is good enough. The wide receivers, they could get some more wide receivers, get some linemen, solidify that line a little bit. But yeah, I'll say panic mode for the Bears is about a 4. I mean, they just survived the Ravens, making it their first road win since 2015. That's bad. Yeah, I definitely say Fox is out. Next, I do believe he'll probably finish out the year. But yeah, next year Fox will be one of the fired coaches, definitely. Next team on my panic meter, which I gave a 4, the Oakland Raiders. This team at the beginning of the year was considered one of the Super Bowl favorites in the AFC, right beside the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. They started 2-0, off to a hell of a start. I mean, Derek Carr looked like he didn't miss a beat from last year whenever he got injured. Now they're 2-4, 4 straight losses. This is the first time they've had a streak like this since they dropped 16 games in a row between the 2013 and the 2014 season. So yeah, the Raiders are definitely in a funk, and they like the Giants at the beginning of the season were considered to be a Super Bowl favorite team that could possibly get to Super Bowl, basically. And Derek Carr, after coming back from his injury, he hasn't looked the same so far. Whether or not they rushed him back, I'm not sure. But yeah, he definitely doesn't look like the Carr from what he looked like last year, and even the first two games. Now, that being said, whenever they dropped 16 games in a row between 2013 and 2014, they ended that streak against the Kansas City Chiefs. They will be playing the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday, so could it happen again? Could they end their four-game losing streak with a win over the Chiefs? You never know. I mean, the Chiefs just lost to the Steelers. And the Chiefs are definitely a good team. But again, I mean, the Raiders, they aren't a horrible team. I mean, the defense, just like last year, was a question. I mean, the offense is not clicking like they were last year. But yeah, I think this Thursday it'll be a good game. See if they can stop the bleeding by beating the Chiefs. My feeling, though, is no, that they probably won't win this game because Andy Reid, just like Andy Reid is, goddamn, practically almost fucking undefeated coming off a bye. I mean, he's just as good coming off a loss. I mean, Andy Reid, he's one hell of a coach. And the Eagles fucked up by getting rid of him. They really did. But yeah, Andy Reid, I don't see him dropping a game after a loss. I don't. Now my next on the panic, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I have them clocking in under a 3-5 panic time mode. That being said, I mean they trailed the Steelers by one game, not a lot. I mean, in a division where you have Cleveland and Cincinnati, it's either the Steelers or the Ravens that are going to win this division, which I believe is going to be the Steelers. One, because Joe Flacco. That's all I got to say. Joe Flacco. I mean, I don't think he's a good quarterback at all. I didn't think he was a good quarterback coming out of Delaware, like, at all. I mean, he had a couple lucky seasons because of a defense. And this year is just showing just how horrible of a quarterback he is. I mean, I would say that there's probably panic in the front office, but I mean, you couldn't tell. I mean, 'cause they are right on the Steelers' doormat. I mean, they're one game away. The signs of concern to me, I mean, their wins that they've had, I mean, they came from the likes of Andy Dalton, Kaiser, and EJ Manuel from the Raiders. So it's not exactly like the teams that the Ravens have beaten this year were really good teams at all. But the Browns are 0-6. The Bengals aren't good. And, I mean, the Raiders are 2-4. I mean, so it's not like the Ravens came out and was beating New England, Kansas City. I mean, they just weren't beating good teams. They definitely need to get their offense back on track. I mean, they do that. I mean, their defense isn't good enough to carry them. I mean, they're not. They're 27th ranked in total offense, 31st ranked in pass, 792 yards this year so far. 792 yards that Flacco has thrown in 6 games. Not good at all. Now, I mean, they do rank fifth in rushing, but that's a skewed. Uh, I mean, I can't see them being. I mean, stats don't lie. I mean, they are fifth ranked. I mean, in rushing, but again, they can't run the ball. Uh, they're just not a good team. Flacco needs to raise his play this season, or they're done. Which honestly, I think they're done anyways. I think this is a 7-9 team all the way, possibly even a 6-10. I don't see him as a good team this year at all. My other panic one, it'll be the final panic one that I mentioned. Uh, this will be Dallas. I give them a 3 in the panic bench. They're right in the middle. Their record heading into the bye this past week was 2-3. They were a 2-minute drive away in that Rams game from beating them. A couple bad calls, which kind of turned that game around towards the Rams. Basically, after the Ryan Switzer muff punt return, the momentum changed right away because you could see Dallas had Goff in a 3-and-out, and you could see Goff whenever he was walking back to the sideline. He was like, "Fuck!" Like he knew that it just wasn't their day that day. Then they punt, and right away Ryan Switzer muffs that punt man, and it goes right to the Rams. And the Rams scored a touchdown. I mean, that changed that whole mentality of that game, like it did. And they were a minute and 12 and a defensive stop away from beating the Green Bay Packers. So I mean, this 2-3 team very easily could have been 4-1. That's why I don't think that there's any panic at all with the Cowboys. I mean, they're a good team. And I do see them. They will win the division. They will win the NFC East hands down. I mean, I can see them going 11-5. I really can. 10-6 at the worst. But yes, I do see the Cowboys winning this division easily. And just because I'm a Cowboy fan, I mean, I can honestly say that even if I wasn't a Cowboy fan, that yes, I can see how good these Cowboys really are. I mean, they've had some bad breaks. Very easily could be a 4-1 team. Very easily. I mean, the defense is getting healthy. They were not healthy these last few games, and they did have some players on suspension. Whenever the bye is done next week, well, they just had their bye. So going into next week, the defense will be relatively pretty healthy and back on track. And I do believe that we are going to run off a couple wins in a row, like 3 or 4. And that's going to get us right back in the conversation. I mean, offensively, they're ranked 7th in total offense. They're 12th ranked in passing with 1,161 yards, 7th in rushing with 620 yards. This offense is definitely cranking. I mean, it's the defense right now that's been injured that has been giving them the problems. Mind you, that being said, they have 2 new additions on the offensive line. Jonathan Cooper playing the guard, which Ron Leary and La'el Collins played last year. And La'el Collins is the new right tackle after Doug Free retired. That being said, I mean, I believe that goes a long way into the reason why the running game isn't like we seen it last year. But I do say that the communication is getting better, and I do see the Cowboys getting their run game back on track. And even if Ezekiel Elliott doesn't get his stay, what they did with McFadden, they kept him fresh, just in case something would go wrong with Zeke. McFadden, he is a 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, he rushed for over 1,000 yards in 2015 whenever it was basically a shit season. The reason why we got Zeke and the reason why fucking we had the 4th overall pick. So yeah, McFadden will be fresh, and Alfred Morris, I believe that 1-2 punch can definitely put this run game back on track. And like I said, with their passing offense, I mean, it's there. I mean, Dak Prescott has looked like a beast. I mean, if it wasn't for him, these games wouldn't even be close. And I do see in watching the tape that the line is getting better. There are holes for these running backs to go through. And the passing, the protection is getting better. So, yeah, these Cowboys definitely are looking good. And they acquired, I mean, they got rid of some secondary players. Barry Church, Brandon Carr, Mo Claiborne. But they picked up Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, and Xavier Woods. I mean, that in itself, I mean, they got a steal with Jordan Lewis, which Jordan Lewis is replacing Nolan Carroll because they just released Nolan Carroll that they picked up from the Eagles. Which, I mean, more so, he was a bridge player until these rookie cornerbacks did produce. Now, are they kicking themselves in the ass for fucking giving Carroll $10 million? Yeah, I'm sure they are. But again, we knew he was just going to be a bridge player until these corners got their feet underneath him, and it probably would have been a lot sooner. But I mean, they both dealt with hamstrings. I mean, Jordan Lewis didn't practice at all in OTAs. I mean, rookie camp he did, but yeah. After his court hearing and he came back for practice full time, that's whenever he hurt his hamstring and he was out the whole time. But yeah, Jordan Lewis was definitely a first-round talent. The only reason why he slid was because of the court hearing that he had. He had a sexual assault thing that he was dealing with, but he got found not guilty from a jury of his peers. He proclaimed right from the gate that, hey, he's like, I did nothing. He's like, this is a bunk charge, and he's like, I'm fighting it and going the whole way. And, I mean, it came back. I mean, he was not guilty. And so, I mean, they definitely stole him in the 3rd round. And then they got Awuzie also in the 3rd round, another steal. Which, with the emergence of Jordan Lewis, that now means that Chidobe Awuzie and Xavier Woods can make a play at Jeff Heath at that safety role. As of right now, I mean, Xavier Woods, he's playing mostly nickel strong safety anyways whenever they bring an extra safety in. He's already bumped Kevin Frazier off. Xavier is now the number 2 strong safety on the depth chart. And they got to steal with Woods. Woods was a 3rd-round talent when they picked him up in the 6th round. So, yeah, these Cowboys definitely, they're better than a 2-3 team. And again, I think they'll win the division easily, very easily. I mean, their defense, yeah, I mean, it will get better with playing time for these rookies, and since they're healthy, I mean, right now they're ranked 21st overall, 17th in pass defense, giving up 1,109 yards, and they're 21st in run defense, giving up 590 yards. But again, they're getting their linebackers back. Anthony Hitchens is back. Sean Lee will be back. And while you're playing on the weak side, Damian Wilson or Kyle Wilber. Possibly even, I mean, you can throw Jalen Smith over there on the weak side. But again, if they're playing, I mean, if they go, once they get out of base and they go to nickel, which they play a lot of nickel and dime anyways, you really only have two linebackers on the field anyways. And right there is Hitchens and Lee. So Damian Wilson, which, I mean, last year it looked like he was going to be a nice young talent, but this year he's been making mental mistakes. And Kyle Wilbur, he looked like a beast in training camp and preseason. But again, the mental mistakes that Damian Wilson was making, the reason why they brought Kyle Wilbur in, he's making the same mistakes. So then playing the nickel and the dime defense, that does make it to where they bring in those extra backs with Awuzie and Xavier Woods handling those responsibilities, and you really only need two linebackers, Hitchens and Lee. Now, I mean, that being said, Jalen Smith will still get his plays, but what they need to do with him, they need to limit those plays to about 20 or 25. I mean, everyone right now, they're talking shit on Jalen Smith. Oh, he wasn't worth the second-round pick, wasn't worth the second-round pick. You got to think, whenever he had that injury in the bowl game for Notre Dame 2 years ago, they said that he was never going to play football again. And, I mean, here in a year and a half, he's back playing football. And the only reason why he's playing 60 to 70 snaps is out of necessity right now. Whenever Hitchens got hurt, that was the only reason. And, I mean, for him playing, I mean, it's one hell of a story from where he came. But, again, he hasn't played bad. I mean, now he gets exposed in coverage. But, again, I mean, his foot, I mean, he has to wear a special boot in order for the drop foot. I mean, the knee, I mean, the knee's fine. I mean, it took, I mean, now the only thing they're waiting on is for those nerves to fire. I mean, the nerves are firing somewhat, but not fully. And I think that mostly the Cowboys were expecting and looking forward to the 2018 season, not this year at being 100%. So, I mean, again, it's been good of what Jalen Smith has been doing. So, I mean, I give him all the credit in the world, especially where he came saying that he was never going to play football again. I mean, that's one hell of a good story. Now, that being said, I mean, last year, shit, I mean, our rush defense last year, I mean, second, we were getting up about 87 yards a game. This year, it's just horrible. I mean, it'll get back on track with these players coming back. And so that's what I mean. No panic for the Cowboys right now. Next topic, the biggest flaws. Biggest team with the flaws. Right there, I'm going to say the biggest team right now that has flaws that no one's really seen is the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is a 5-1 team, but despite their 5-1 record, they are not as good as people are saying they are. I mean, one, they're playing a third-place schedule, and that is very favorable to them right now. Seeing how out of all the out-of-conference teams that they've played, they are just as bad or worse as they were last year. So these teams that they have been playing, they're worse than they were last year, and they weren't good. Seeing how they're in the third-place team schedule, I mean, besides Carolina, Philly has not beaten a team that is over 500. I mean, the wins that they've had, the Redskins, 30-17. I mean, the Redskins, they look like a decent team, but they're not great. And, I mean, at the beginning of the season, everyone already said that the Redskins were going to be the bottom feeders of this division. I mean, now, whenever they did play the Redskins, they lost to them twice last year. So this was kind of like the Eagles Super Bowl. I mean, you can even fucking see it because whenever they beat them, they gave fucking Doug Peterson a goddamn Gatorade bath. Like, really? Like, did you just win the fucking Super Bowl? So why are you giving your goddamn coach a bath. Like, pathetic right there. The Giants, they beat the Giants 27-24. And if you go back and you watch that tape, besides the lucky bomb that the fucking rookie kicker blasted to win the game, the Eagles caught 3 breaks. 3 breaks in that game, which could have totally, which could have taken off 10 points, so they would have lost 24-14. I mean, the Chargers, they beat the Chargers 26-24 again, lucky breaks. They should have lost that game 24-13. I mean, and all being said, I mean, this team clearly, whenever you watch them on tape, they are they're a 2-3 team. I mean, right now, Philadelphia is the worst 5-1 team in the league right now. I mean, hands down. I mean, let's look at it. Their defense is ranked 31st. 31st. They're giving up 2,035 yards. They're dead last in pass defense. They're giving up 1,641 yards. That's just horrible. Now their rush defense is ranked 8th. But again, if you look at that, they haven't faced any running backs. Like, they haven't. So, of course, they're going to be ranked high in rush because the teams they faced, they don't have running backs. And being last in fucking pass defense, which is sad in itself, because the teams that Philadelphia has played, besides Odell Beckham, there's no wide receivers for any of them teams. Larry Fitzgerald, he didn't even have that good of a game. Like, so they're getting lit the fuck up by wide receiver cores that aren't very good. And again, I mean, they're ranked dead last in pass defense, and they're 31st in total defense. Like that, and that's what I mean. The Eagles are not as good as people think they are. Like, their secondary has not changed basically from last year. Their secondary shit, like straight shit. They're they're ranked 16th in the league in penalties, 34 for 293 yards. Now, I mean, you look at the defense, then you can turn around and look at the offense. Their offense is ranked number 1. I will give that to them. But again, the defenses that they've played are shit. I mean, they're second in passing, and they're second in rushing. And again, the fronts of these teams that they're facing, they're not good. So, I mean, yes, the Eagles, besides Carolina, and Carolina really isn't that good of a game. If you go back and look at the stats of Cam Newton, whenever he wins a game with multiple touchdowns or wins multiple games with multiple touchdowns, the third game, statistically wise, he always loses. And he usually always throws between 2 to 4 picks. And I believe he threw 3 picks in that game against the Eagles. And they barely won that game. Carolina should have won that game. So, again, that being said, I mean, besides the Redskins game, this team could very easily be 1-5. Like, they're not that good of a team. And mark my words, at the best, this team is 8-8. And the next 10 games, I see them going about 3-7. Like, in the next 4 games alone, it's they have the Redskins, 49ers, Broncos, and Dallas. I very easily see them losing all 4 of them games right from the gate. So they will be about a 5-5 team coming out of the next month. I mean, they have 7 players on IR. 10 more players that are either questionable or doubtful. I mean, I definitely can see a major shift this next month with the Eagles. Everybody's talking about them right now. 5-1, 5-1. They are the worst 5-1 team in the league. And that's not me saying it. I mean, that is 85% of the sports analysts are saying that. Get on Sirius Radio or half the ESPN people. Yeah, the Eagles are not that good. I mean, they're not. You had the Eagle fans thinking that they're great all the time. I mean, last year they started, I think it was like 3-0 or 3-1. And what happened to them last year? Shit. It's going to be the same thing that happens to them this year. Like I said, out of the next 10 games, at best they'll go 4-6 out of them next 10. But and the next 4 games, the Redskins, 49ers, Broncos, Dallas, like I said, I believe that they're going to lose all 4 of them games. I mean, the 49ers, they're going to play them tough. The Redskins, they're going to beat them. The Broncos, they're not beating the Broncos. And Dallas, they're not beating us. Like, they're not. Like, I can easily see 0-4 this next month for the Philadelphia Eagle fans. All right. Let's pay some bills again. Trivago, are you sick of insanely priced hotels? Or are you tired of making phone call after phone call to compare prices for a hotel before your vacation? If so, let Trivago do the work for you. They'll compare millions of hotels with a click of a button. Take the guess game out of the booking, try Trivago, and let them save you money. Trivago.com. Mountain Dew. If you are looking for a soda that packs the punch like of an extreme MMA fighter, then you're looking for the crisp, refreshing taste of the only soft drink that can provide that maximum punch that you are looking for. Join the millions that have already done the do, and they are doing the do right now, and grab yourself a Mountain Dew, baby. All right. Let's smoke another cigarette, get some lung cancer. Woo! Not promoting cigarettes. Don't fucking smoke them, little kids out there watching this. Let's switch from football to baseball. Tonight, we have a big game. The Yankees are going to try to avoid going down to the Astros 3-0. On the mound today for New York is CC Sabathia. In the playoffs thus far, he's pitched 9.2 innings and has an ERA of 3.72 with 14 strikeouts. On the mound tonight for the Astros is Charlie Morton, which he's only pitched 4.1 innings thus far with an ERA of 4.15 with only 4 strikeouts. The Astros are batting 293 to the Yankees' dismal 200 batting average. The Yankees definitely, I mean, yeah, they knocked off the Cleveland Indians and surprised everyone because the Cleveland Indians were predicted to win the whole fucking shebang. But yeah, the Yankees knocked them off. But yeah, team batting 200, that's horrible. Now I do see the Yankees squeaking a victory out tonight in a close game. I'm predicting it be 7-6. I believe Aaron Judge, he will come to life tonight. He has not had a good series thus far. Look for him to give the Yankees a much-needed energy boost. I definitely don't see the Yankees going down 0-3. I do see them trying to make a series of it. That being said, I do see the Astros pulling this out, though. So, yeah, I mean, my prediction is the Astros against the Dodgers. And again, yeah, that game is tonight at 8:08 should be the first pitch. Weird fucking time, 8:08, huh? But, yeah, the Yankees are definitely looking to try to avoid 0-3. Not very good. But I do see them squeaking out a victory tonight. CC Sabathia, I think he'll go deep. I think he'll go to about the 6th inning, 7th inning possibly. Charlie Morton, I just have a feeling that his stuff is just not going to be on tonight. I mean, he's only pitched 4 innings, which, I mean, I don't think that's enough right now. I mean, I think I don't think he has the groove. I mean, mind you, I mean, they just played a fucking big-ass schedule. But, yeah, I mean, in the playoffs thus far, I just have that feeling that Warrens are going to get banged up today. And I definitely think that Aaron Judge is going to have a coming-out party, but too little, too late. Tomorrow night, again, the Dodgers, just like the Astros, the Dodgers are going to be looking to go 3-0 up against the World Series defending champion Chicago Cubbies. On the mound for LA tomorrow is Yu Darvish. He's 1-0 so far in the playoffs with a 1.80 ERA in only 5 innings pitched. On the mound for the Cubbies is Kyle Kendricks. He's also 1-0 with 11 innings pitched and logging a 3.27 ERA. I do see the Dodgers taking the game tomorrow. I see him taking it pretty easily. I'm predicting score to be 11-5. I definitely think that the Dodger fans can get out the broom because I do see them sweeping the Cubs. Like I don't see the Cubs winning a game in this series. Like I don't. And you know what? The Cubs, they finally won. They won last year. Get that stigmata shit off their back. I mean, but yeah, I don't see them. I don't see them winning a game in this thing. I think this is all Dodgers. And that being said, I think the Dodgers win it all. I think they beat Houston. I think that series isn't going to be that good of a series. I think the Dodgers are going to take that 4-2. So yeah, I mean that's baseball. But yeah, tonight definitely a good game. Definitely check that out. Yankees against the Astros. First pitch thrown out at 8:08 tonight. And finally, to end this show, the NBA season is starting in a couple days. So what I have for you today is 10 NBA bold predictions for this upcoming season. Let's start it right off. The Los Angeles Clippers. I say the Clippers are going to miss the playoffs this year. They don't have Chris Paul. He is gone. He is now in Houston. They still have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. The key additions that they've gotten this year was Danilo Gallinari, Patrick Beverly, and Lou Williams. And probably the biggest addition they have is the Siberian passing sensation, Milo Theodosic. Hell of a player. I mean, he's a hell of a facilitator. Why do I feel that the Clippers are going to miss the playoffs? One, it's hard to picture Blake and Gallinari really kind of playing the whole season. I mean, I think between them, they might. I mean, and that's between them both. I see them maybe both between them playing 125 games combined. I just don't see them playing that many games. With all the additions they've had, I mean, it's just they're basically role players with specific skill sets, and I don't think that they're going to mesh very well. And I mean, one with Blake and Gallinari, I mean, they're two good players, but they're a bad defensive fit. I think whenever you have them both on the floor, I just don't see the Clippers competing this year. Like I really don't. So yeah, and that's my number one. That's my first bold prediction is Clippers will not make the playoffs. My second prediction is the Thunder, the Warriors, and the Timberwolves. All three of them teams will produce 3 players off each team that are going to rank in the top 25 in scoring. The Warriors, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson, they all were in the top 25 last year, and I believe they will all be in the top 25 again this year. The Thunder, Russell Westbrook, new addition Paul George, and new addition Carmelo Anthony. I do believe all three of them this year will be in the top 25 of scoring again. The Timberwolves with the addition of Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Wiggins. I do believe all three of them will also be in the top 25 of scoring. And mind you, all 9 of them players last year were in the top 25 in scoring. My third prediction, the Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I believe he will be in the top 10 in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Now, I mean, that is definitely a bold prediction for Antetokounmpo, but I mean, he's, like they say, he's the Greek fucking freak, baby. I mean, and in order to do that, all he's got to do is average another 2.5 points per game, which very doable for him. He's got to collect 2.3 more rebounds a game, which he can do that. Assists, he has to dish the ball out 1.6 more times a game, which I believe he can do that. And steals, 0.1 steal a game. I mean, shit. Every 10 games, you pick off an extra ball, you have it. But yeah, that's one of my bold predictions. The Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he will be in the top 10 in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks this year. And plus, if any player can do it, it's him. My fourth bold prediction, the Brooklyn Nets. They will be in the bottom, top of the bottom 5 in the Eastern Conference. In the last 2 seasons, they have won 41 games. And they traded away their best player in Brook Lopez. If you consider Brook Lopez even an elite player. A lot of people don't. I mean, they've added depth. I mean, they have a nice rotation of quality role players, but they have no stars. Like, none at all. I definitely see, the Brooklyn Nets finishing out of the bottom 5. Let's see. My next bold prediction is the Spurs. The Spurs will finish out of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. This is a crazy fucking stat. The Spurs have made the playoffs in the last 28 seasons 27 times. So they have made the playoffs 27 out of the last 28 seasons. The year they didn't win, they won the lottery and they drafted Tim Duncan, which everyone could say that is a basketball fucking fan or even a Spurs fan. Tim Duncan was probably the greatest fucking pickup that the Spurs ever had. I mean, Tim Duncan was a beast. And that is putting it lightly. I say that they're going to finish out of the top 4 of the teams because, one, I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he is already ruled out with the right quad, and there is no time frame for him. I mean, he didn't play in the preseason, and he is already ruled out for the first game. And yeah, there is no timetable for Kawhi Leonard to come back either. So now, mind you, I mean, that's going to rest it on. They just re-signed Pau Gasol. That's going to leave them with an unproven point guard in DeJounte Murray and Rudy Gay, who's coming back from an Achilles tear. So that in itself, I mean, that until Kawhi comes back, I do think they will drop a few games to knock them out of the top 4. So I mean, that even being said, even if they're 5th into the playoffs, I mean, they're still a hard team to beat. I mean, they could easily switch home field on you quick as shit by taking the fucking game in your building, which they are definitely capable of doing. I mean, Greg Popovich, he's a fucking genius when it comes to coaching. I mean, Pop, he's the man. My other bold prediction, my 6th one, is the Bulls will lose at least 70 games. Yes, I said that right. The Bulls will lose at least 70 games this year. They got rid of their best player in Jimmy Butler. Sent him over to the Timberwolves. I mean, their roster is full of young players, but all their young players are question mark players. I mean, they have probably the worst point guard rotation in the league. I mean, with Jeremy Grant, Chris Dunn, and Cameron Payne, that they are. I mean, the most talented player they have is Zach LaVine, and he's out for a couple months with a torn ligament. So, yeah, I mean, I see the Bulls dropping. I see them losing at least 70 games this year. And, I mean, now that's a bold prediction. I'm not banking, hey, 70 games losing. But, yeah, one of my bold predictions is the Bulls will lose at least 70 games this year. I mean, and also the 2 proven veterans that they have, Nico Mirotic and Robin Lopez, I see them trading them away before the deadline. I mean, because if they are looking that shitty, getting rid of both of them players are going to give them some added ammunition going into possibly the draft this year. My other bold prediction, which would be number 7, the Warriors will win at least 70 games. They won 67 last year with Durant being injured for 6 weeks. So, yeah, I definitely see, and they brought back 12 of the 15 players from last year. And they improved all 3 positions that they turned around from last year. Ask me why this is a bold prediction, because only 2 teams in history has won 70 games, and that was the 96 Bulls and the 2015 Warriors. So that's why I consider that a bold prediction that, yes, they will win 70 games. My other bold prediction, DeMarcus Cousins will be traded this year. The Pelicans are basically in winter bust mode right now. Coach Alvin Gentry, he is on the hot seat as well as GM Dell Demps. Cousins and Davis are arguably the best big men in the NBA. But if things go south like I do expect, I expect the Pelicans to deal Cousins to get something. Because, I mean, he is a free agent at the end of the year. So I think they'll deal him to try to get something in return other than lose him completely. My 9th prediction, at least 4 coaches will be fired in season. Not at the end, in season. Last year marked the first time in nearly 50 years that no coaches were fired in season. But yeah, this year I believe 4 coaches are going to be fired in season. And my 10th and final bold prediction is the Celtics will finish outside the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference. they definitely had the most eventful off-season trading. They traded away their first pick and jumped down to get Jason Tatum from Duke. Uh, Hell of a pick. And they also got a future pick as well. They swapped Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving and also signed All-Star Gordon Hayward from free agency. With 4 new starters, this will bring some growing pains right from the gate. It's not going to happen overnight with all these guys meshing together. And that's where I think that they'll lose them games enough, just knock them out of the 2 top spots. That being said, I mean, the Celtics have a great future in sight. I mean, they are going to have a good season. They'll definitely be giving the Cavs a run for money to get to the finals. But yeah, my bold prediction, which you might not even call bold, I guess. I mean, but they will finish out of the top 2. They'll probably be ranked around 3 or 4, possibly, with my bold prediction if it's right. They'll win. They'll at least win 55 games this year. I mean, maybe a little bit over. I mean, I just don't think they're going to be one of the automatic top 2 teams. But yeah, those are my 10 bold predictions for the NBA season, which starts here in a couple days. Thank you guys for joining me today. FNC Raw Undisputed, my first show today. I will have my co-host, Greg Conrad, back here shortly. His work schedule is preventing him from coming in with me. So today and for the foreseeable future, this week at least, I will be solo. So hope you guys enjoyed the first show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. You guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much. Matt Crass likes to thank you from FNC Raw Undisputed, baby.